apply the parts of this story to our own lives. And I think the first thing that I'd like to mention, and preface this before we continue, is that we are all disciples, right? Sometimes we tend to be like, well, I'm a Christian, or like, I go to church. But by being a follower of Christ, you become a disciple, which means that this story is as much for you as it was for the 12 disciples who were with Jesus on that day. For myself, for all of us here. And so I think sometimes we don't necessarily have the mindset of disciples when we're going about our lives. We define ourselves in other ways, like with our work. Well, I work as an electrician, or I work as a doctor. I'm a doctor, and you define yourself as that. But before you're a doctor, you're a disciple. And before you're a disciple, you're a child of God. So in every interaction we have, we are supposed to look at that through the lens of a disciple and through the lens of Jesus Christ, right? Okay, could you move on to the next slide? Okay, perfect. So, oh no. I have 10 points, and they're all quite short, so we'll get through them quite quickly. Every interaction that we have has a purpose. That was ordered by God. Today, when we were worshiping, the worship was great, honestly. It was really, really nice. When we have an amazing God, and I don't think we realize how aware God is of the details, aware of the small things. We serve a big God who is able to use small things to accomplish big things. And there's two verses here that I'd like to read. Firstly, Proverbs 19:21, and then Psalm 33:11. If two people could read those two verses. So Proverbs 19:21, and then Psalm 33:11. If anyone has it, they can just start. Yes.
Many are the plans in a person's heart, but it is the Lord's purpose that prevails.
Amen. And then Psalm 33:11.
But the plan of the Lord stands firm forever, the purpose of his heart through all generations.
Amen. So, our God is a God of purpose. Our God is a God of purpose. He does nothing that doesn't have a reason for it being done. Whether we know the reason or not, there is a reason, there is a purpose behind it. And so if we think about this in like a practical sense, we might overlook the interactions we have with people in the street. Perhaps it's saying hello to the bus driver, or perhaps it's talking to the barista at the coffee shop, or maybe it's interacting with a coworker at work. All of these interactions have a purpose that God has ordained for us. And we don't necessarily realize that, right? And that's kind of, I think, one of the things that I noticed when I was reading the passage at first. I was like, that's interesting. And Jesus doesn't only have a purpose for the interactions that you have, that we have with other people, but he has a purpose for perhaps the way that you encountered him. Because we all encountered him in different ways. So some people encountered him when they were hitting rock bottom. Other people encountered him because they were being raised Christian in a very sheltered environment. I was raised Christian, so I was never really exposed to like that much growing up. When I met other Christian people who were like living completely in the world, and they encountered him there. So God has a purpose for that as well, because someone who hit rock bottom and then encountered the Lord could connect with someone else who had the same experience in a different way than I could, because I would never understand that, right? So that's the first point. Let's see if this works. Nope. Oh, there, it did. Okay. I just can't read, apparently. Okay. This is the second point, and I kind of mentioned this earlier, obviously, when we were talking about the story, but when we seek to reach people, we need to find a point of connection, and we need to listen actively. It is so, so important to listen. I mean, all of us would kind of know this. You know, when you're having a conversation with someone, you can tell their mind is completely somewhere else. It doesn't feel very nice when you're sharing something that's really important to you, and they're just like, away with the fairies. Like, that's not a very nice feeling. And so when you're trying to reach someone or trying to share the gospel with someone, or even just have any conversation with anyone, when you listen actively and you find ways to connect with people, that makes them feel loved, it makes them feel cared